Almost every summer, forest fires take a heavy toll of New Zealand's bushlands and forestry plantations. These fires ranged the countryside, destroying private property and thousands of acres of bush and forest. Another national disaster like this can be avoided only by the greatest care on the part of every one of us.
My name's Cameron Nafisi. I'm a second-year doctoral student at the University of Colorado in the biogeography lab. What we're looking at are fires that have occurred over the past 100 to maybe 200 or 250 years. And essentially what we're interested in looking at is how the vegetation here has responded to those fires and how is it recovering from those fires. Fire is a landscape process, and what we're interested is in trying to catch the variability or the heterogeneity of the impacts that fire has. Fire is never sort of monotypic. It doesn't ever create just one effect all over the landscape. And so when we get into these areas, we need to take very detailed records of what we actually find here. And so we are going through and doing that in a number of sites throughout New Zealand. Caprasma 2.7, Conica 12.0, Caprasma 2.1, another Conica 24.4. The big story here in New Zealand is that humans have had a very large role to play in wildfire in both the North and the South Island here. And that includes both the indigenous Maori populations that were here and the European settlers that came afterwards, both of whom burned quite a lot.
So a big part of my research here is studying the vegetation structure, the size distribution and height distribution, foliage distribution of the live trees. But along with that, we're collecting tree cores where we can look at the tree rings and find out the ages of the trees. When you drive around or look around the landscape, you can obviously see very strong effects of fire. I mean, is New Zealand becoming more flammable? And if with a warmer climate, do we suspect to see more fire? And I think it's useful to have that history of what really happened. I think we add a little part to that history.
Every day is different, really. I think that's what's cool about projects like this. New Zealand's a very interesting place because there wasn't any human habitation as far back as 800 years ago. It's believed that the whole island was essentially covered in forest, and what you see now is a very disturbed, patchy network of ecosystems, and so it's kind of an interesting place. Our difficult sites are steep. Sometimes we have to do some crazy acrobatics through, trees or climb up and grab onto whatever we can.
Live Conica 31.9.
I'm an undergraduate research assistant, and so I help Alan and Cameron do all of the sampling. This has been a great opportunity for me. It's experienced a different ecosystem that's absolutely the opposite of what I would have experienced in Texas, and so I've learned a lot.
Will wildfire continue to happen here, or will it not? And why was New Zealand a land that had so little fire before people arrived, and yet then has had so much, and the impacts have been so severe and so obvious on the landscape today? So under a changing climate regime, if it's more likely to burn again in the future, how is that likely to affect the future trajectory of fire and wildfire impacts here in New Zealand?